Hello, everyone. I'm Brien Lundin of Gold Newsletter, and I am here at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver. It's a great market. It's a great event, lots of excited investors and lots of opportunities. One of the best opportunities out there, and one that I'm invested in, is Banyan Gold. And maybe it's called Banyan Gold and Silver now because we've gotten some remarkable silver grades and literally another kind of deposit superimposed on what is already an extraordinary project. So we have Tara Christie with us, the president and CEO of Banyan. And Tara, I've liked Banyan for a long time because it's tremendous resource, large resource, 7 million ounces, the kind of strategic resource that's going to move the needle for a major. You've got a great technical team. You're checking off all the risk boxes, getting it all tied up in a bow, but the package keeps expanding and getting larger. And you've come a long way, like just about every company in this market over the past year, really 6 months. But you're still fundamentally undervalued because in that process, the gold price has also risen, but your valuation for ounces in the ground, because you keep finding more gold as well, is still at a small fraction of what previous projects have sold for in markets that didn't approach this one. I mean, I don't know where to start with this company. I mean, there's so many different areas. Give us your spiel, your elevator pitch on Banyan right now, and then I'll play off of that.
Okay, so Banyan, as you said, is sitting with what I think is a generational opportunity resource. 2.2 million ounces of indicated and 5.4 million ounces of inferred, with lots of room for that to grow.
Yeah.
We know it's open in all directions, and in fact, our new geological model has opened it up even more, and we're finding that high-grade core.
Yeah, that was always the missing link, as it were, was what's your startup pit? Where's the high-grade core to start the project? And it seems to me you found an awful lot of startup pits at this point.
Yeah, and we have two primary ones. If you look on the east-west section, you can see there's 4 zones with this high grade right near surface, 1 to 2 gram material. We focused on drilling off the 2 that we know came into the early mine plan from our pre-scoping and pre-PEA work that we've done. And we can see the high grade hangs together lithologically, and that's allowing us to specifically target these high grade zones and do things like convert waste to ore and, take the pit down deeper. And our pit will go deeper because remember that last resource was at a 2050 gold price. That's how fast gold prices move. People are using 3,000 even higher now. So that alone is going to drive the pit lower, bring in more ounces. And then we've drilled 43,000 meters last year, our best targeted meters ever with our new geological model targeting those high grade zones.
That's that's not just a throwaway line. The new geological model points to more and more resources. And one of the things that hits me that you've been focusing on in your presentations is your target of 5 million ounces at 1 gram plus. I mean, that is really a strategic asset if you could hit that.
Well, and 1 gram was a rule of thumb back at $1,800 gold.
Right.
And same with our $200 meter pit depth. Both of those are going to change once people's heads get around, oh my gosh, we're $5,000 gold. I have to kick myself to think about that. It's kind of a pretty amazing gold price.
Yeah.
But yes, we think we're going to be on track for that. Our new geological model is really showing how consistent this mineralization, and in mining, consistency is a great thing, and predictability.
And one of the things that's impressed me so much with Banyan in your management team is that you've been very strategic and you really husbanded your resources carefully. In a down market, you didn't necessarily spend a lot of money drilling when the market wouldn't appreciate it. You did the boring work, but necessary work.
Yep.
And when the time is right, you were able to really get the drilling up and show the market what it was wanted. One of the things that's happened in this new environment where you've had the ability to up the meterage is that you've been able to go back towards some previous interesting intercepts and follow up, including an interesting silver intercept.
Exactly.
So we have a discovery within a discovery, as it were. Tell us about that.
So in 2021, when we made one hit of this high grade zone, gold or silver price was $20.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a confusing to the story, like metallurgy, and we had no idea that there would be any continuity to it. Over the years, we drilled some other intercepts where we've seen some elevated silver. And then even in last year's program, we drilled some more.
Yeah.
We've now established a zone, roughly 3 kilometers by 2 kilometers, with 3 specific zones where we've identified 6 specific veins, in addition to having the potential for more than that. And remember, these veins at Keno Hill are typically 4 to 6 meters thick.
Yeah.
So when you're drilling 100-meter spaced holes, unless you're intentionally targeting it, it's hard to find them.
Right.
So now we've hit it over 18 times, and our AG1 silver vein, which is the one that we originally hit back in 2021, at 13,000 grams per ton over 2.9 meters. We then stepped out 90 meters on surface, 20 meters along strike at depth, and hit that same vein, again with 10,000 grams per ton.
Wow.
Over 1.7 meters, but within 5,000 grams per ton over 3.4 meters. So we've already got 20 meters. And remember, what's a 1 meter cubed block of Keno Hill silver style mineralization at 10,000 grams per ton worth? Well, it's worth $120,000 US.
And what's the proximity to the Keno mineralization?
So there's a property boundary. The
yeah.
historic, it's probably about, the closest about 3 kilometers,
Okay.
and the mill is 7 kilometers.
So this
from
could
our
literally
property.
be just a continuation of the
Could
same?
be, yeah.
Okay.
Often in geology, people get these models in their head that it ends here,
Yeah.
or this is all the model is. I think we're showing that the Keno Hill mineralization doesn't necessarily
End at the property line.
doesn't
yeah.
end at the property line, and doesn't necessarily fit the model, because previously they didn't think it should be in this part of the sedimentary package.
So is this an
that we're in.
overprint or a different?
It's an overprint. So the
Okay.
gold was in place about 100 million years, and then the silver came in at about 80 million years. And you can
Okay.
imagine it's kind of like there are these fractures, and,
Yeah.
and it comes in like icing between a layer cake and forms these veins. And we found, that 3.4 meter intersection, that's a mineable width. So all we need to do is find somewhere where and prove that it connects. We have another intersection on that AG1 vein, or we believe it could be 1.5 kilometers to the north.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of continuity and strike could be very exciting.
So it's safe to say this is no longer potentially a distraction.
It's no longer, but it doesn't have to be independent, because anytime we're drilling a hole for the silver, we're also
Okay.
adding ounces of gold
And in
or
production-
putting it into inferred. And yes, you could separate the two of them, because an ore sorter would work. This silver mineralization is very galena cephalorite
Okay.
rich, so it's very heavy, and it's also very visually distinct.
So you keep finding more gold. You keep checking off all the risk boxes and getting it really appropriate where a major could come in and say, and feel comfortable at some point. Talk to us a bit about that somewhat delicate balance. How many more ounces do you want to add versus progressing it toward an attractive target for a sale at some multiple of the current levels?
So most of our effort is going to go into defining the resource, showing that economic project. We've already taken some big step outs that you'll see in our results this year that show airstrip mineralization out a kilometer to the west, a kilometer to the east, those 300 meter step outs down at Southwest Powerline. That demonstrates,
step outs,
and
yeah.
those ones at Southwest Powerline to our geology team means that whole southern end of Powerline is now open. That's 5 kilometers of strike that's now open. So I think any geologist that comes and looks at the section, looks at our model, is going to see this can more than double
Right.
potentially if we continue to. The 2 deposits would abut. We've got a few lines of holes between them, but are we going to put all those holes in between just to prove that, just to add ounces to our inventory? Probably not in the near term if they don't go into the mine plan
Okay.
that we've kind of already put together. But we are going to drill 10% at pure greenfield exploration, because we've got some targets that are lookalikes on our property that you'd be embarrassed if you didn't drill them and somebody else came along and drilled them later,
Right.
and you had that target on a map. So you'll
Yeah.
see that. You'll see us focus some of our resources on the silver mineralization, which will improve the gold deposit in those specific areas, either adding ounces or converting to indicated. You don't need to prove out a whole lot to get a resource at that kind of grade.
Yeah.
And we will already have a mineral resource of silver in our upcoming MRE in the second quarter.
So big catalyst coming up in terms of new resource, but that kind of high potential exploration drilling that the market really likes.
Absolutely. You know, that's a really strong catalyst. We're going to have the resource update followed shortly by the PEA in the second half of 2026. And then we'll have another 40,000 meters that we're starting to drill in less than a month. We're opening our camp. We'll have 4 drills turning in March,
Wow.
continuing to add to the economics, focusing on some of that silver high grade areas and those big step outs. So it's going to be a catalyst rich year. We still have 100 holes to come from last year.
Wow, and we don't have really any time left, but very quickly, let's talk about the valuation, ounces, value per ounce in the ground. Where you are right now, it's about $40 US.
$40 US compared to some of our peers. And I think we saw today at the conference, Rick Rule and yourself, you know, talking about people taking money from their high flyers that no longer had the opportunity for a 5 or 10 bagger and redeploying it into the ones that haven't re-rated. And I think we qualify in that. If you look at how we, you know, rate compared to some of our peers, if you look at our analyst consensus, we're trading at a 0.18 NAV. You know, some of our peers in the jurisdiction are trading at 0.4, 0.5. Snowline's at 0.5. You know, that capital reallocation into companies that could, you know, really re-rate. And, you know, as I said, we've seen 50 million shares traded. So our cost base is now much higher. And that's over $1. So those people didn't invest thinking they were going to get a one bagger. They can see the value in Banyan, and I know some of them who are buying right now are very sophisticated mining investors. So that to me is really personal validation that this project, and we got a long way to go.
Yeah, and we've seen for our audience, we've seen historically projects sell for 4 or 5 times that valuation per ounce in the ground in markets where, let's say, the gold price was not $5,000
under $2,500. There were projects selling for $500 an ounce. Should
over
we be
10
valued
times.
at that?
Yeah.
You know, and our overhang was from 2024 and some of those legacy issues, some of the perceptions around grade and mining technique. If you listen to the Banyan story, we are debunking them. We have high grade. This is going to be a mill project. That overhang of the share ownership, we have 100% ownership of our property. We've got cash in the bank with just under $38 million starting the year. You know, that's allowed us to fire on all cylinders. And I got a great team that's really motivated and focused.
It is hitting on all cylinders. And like I said, you got the package wrapped up in a bow, but the package keeps getting big. Tara, thank you so much. It's going to be a great year ahead and very rewarding for shareholders like me, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.